Erstklassisch mit Mischke, der musikalische Podcast des Hamburger Abendblatts.
Ja, hallo, schönen guten Tag zu einer neuen Folge. Heute bin ich wieder in meinem Arbeitszimmer. Mein Gast ist nicht in Hamburg, sondern ich nehme mal an in Norwegen. Damit ist auch schon halbwegs klar, wer es sein könnte. Es ist ein norwegischer Pianist. Der norwegische Pianist Leif Ove Andsnes, der im November nach Hamburg kommt, um hier 3 Tage lang mit dem Mahler Chamber Orchestra Mozart hauptsächlich aufzuführen. Und wir hatten jetzt die Gelegenheit, einen Termin vorher zu finden. Und von daher bin ich sehr froh, dass das tatsächlich hingehauen hat, dass wir uns zusammen gezoomt haben. Also ich freue mich auf das Gespräch. Erstmal vielen Dank, Herr Andsnes. Da ich kein Norwegisch kann, weiß ich nicht, wie man Sie begrüßt. Wir machen das jetzt mal auf Englisch. Also schön, dass Sie da sind.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Since this is a learned format, we always start with something that's obligatory. So you have to, or you can choose whether you'd like an easy question first or a hard question first.
Oh.
Yes.
Let me have the hard one.
The hard one.
Yeah.
Okay. The hard one is, when is a pianist a good pianist?
Pianist / musician, I guess. The pianist, being a good pianist, I think you are when you have moments when you don't think about the challenge of being a pianist. I mean, where you feel the freedom at the instrument, that you don't have to overcome obstacles. Well, of course, you have to think about the action of playing when you play, but that there will be moments, shorter or longer, in performances where you forget about it, where you are just simply feeling the freedom to create in the moment. And then I think, people can like it or not, but I think then you are a good pianist because you have the freedom at your instrument to express what you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk about your job. You have the luck or the bad fate or whatever you want to call it to be a Norwegian. And so I guess you'll always ask for playing Grieg. And even more so, you're living in the town where Grieg was born. How annoying is it? How unnerving is it that you always are focused and simplified on, okay, you're from Norway, you have to play this?
Not so much, but I'm sometimes surprised when I see what people write about me, that I'm a specialist in Grieg and things like that, which is really not the case, because I've played 10 times as much Beethoven as I played Grieg, but that of course easily becomes a stereotype, and that stereotype can sometimes be annoying. But in terms of repertoire, first of all, I like Grieg. As a composer, I feel close to him. I played him from I was a child, but he's also a composer that is not inexhaustible like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert. So I will play him in some periods. I will play certain pieces, and then I will put him away and come back to it. And then I again feel close to his music. I mean, the piano concerto for me was my visiting card when I was 17, 18 years old. I played it as my debut piece with a lot of different orchestras. Then I really put it away from when I was, I think, 23, 24. And after that, in fact, I have played it in certain periods. But when I played it in 2019 quite a lot in the autumn, I made many concerts with it. Then I hadn't played it for 12 years, for instance. So that is a piece which I take up once in a while, and then I will play it, but then I have to put it away again. Mm-hmm. The last the Grieg project for me, which was very exciting, was I just recorded his songs together. I recorded it with Lise Davidsen, our great new soprano, and for me, maybe his songs are his greatest, where he can achieve most freedom in the genre, most creativity of all, and maybe because he was very inspired by the poets as well. On the other hand, this is not so much done internationally because most of them are in Norwegian. And I think, and that felt really wonderful to do now for the first time.
Because I've never been to Bergen, I have no idea. Is there some sort of local specialty that's been done to commemorate Griegen, like the Mozart-Kugel in Salzburg or something like that? Some special fish, or I have no idea. Is there anything?
A frog.
A frog?
There's a Greek frog. Yeah, believe it or not. He had a little, what do you call it? Like it looks like a small souvenir, like made in ceramics or so, that he had in his pocket at concerts. I'm not kidding. And he had to cuddle this frog before concerts. It was a kind of superstition. And therefore people, they are selling this frog today. And,
made from chocolate as well, or?
And well, of course, there's this chocolate about every composer, but not in the, but not the special famous Greek chocolate. But you mean the frog if it comes in chocolate form?
Yes.
I don't know. But one can simply buy this as a little pet to cuddle. If you believe strongly in this frog, as Grieg obviously did.
Okay, never heard of that. Did you actually start your career as a what's called Wunderkind? Because you were taught by your parents and both were music teachers. Didn't that complicate things in a way as well? Because you couldn't not practice. If you had music teachers in your house, you were always under control. You were always under some sort of pressure, maybe. I have no idea. But what was it like?
Well, I mean, your parents can never be your hero, in terms of, I mean, you need teachers outside. And I mean, I started playing when I was 4 or 5 years old. And then my parents taught me for the 2-3 first years. But then I was lucky to find a good local teacher. I'm from a small community. I'm from an island on the west part of Norway, in Karmøy. And I have I had no friends that were playing the piano at all. So it was a lonely thing. So in that sense, I'm really happy to have had to at least be from a musical family where my parents are music teachers. Otherwise, I would not have come across this music or at all. But then, of course, you need other people outside the home. But was I a Wunderkind? What is the definition of that? I mean, I was very talented, and I played and won youth competitions the first time when I was 9 and so on. But I was never. In a way, it was a very serious hobby for me. But I had no examples. I didn't know any professional musicians. I mean, I knew some music teachers, my own, and some, but not till I was 14, 15 did I get to know some professional musicians and could see what a life like that could be like. So it was searching for a way and at the same time feeling that this is really my place. This is my language.
So if there was no example to see all around and no peer and no idol in a way that was close, how long did it take for you to find out that this is the right thing to do, that you should really strive to become a musician and not, I don't know, a doctor, a teacher, a architect, whatever?
I think I felt it just after a few years, because when I sat down at the piano, there was something, it triggered something in me, especially when I could start to play real music. I mean, small pieces by Grieg or Chopin or Mozart, and to start to sight read these kind of things when I was 10, 11, and to discover harmonies, in a nocturne by Chopin or so, and this kind of discovery from within of this enormous beauty. From that moment, I do remember that I thought, okay, that this is really my life. But to decide to become a pianist, I don't know, maybe when I was 14, I sort of did my first recitals and felt that people were really appreciating what I did, and they were listening to me, and then thinking, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe I can build on this and do this as a profession.
Mm-hmm. This is a sort of practical question, but I always wonder whether it's maybe a thing of honor or duty, knowing music by heart and playing without actual sheet music on the piano. How do you see this? Is it some sort that has to be done, or is it just pressure that's put on you because it looks like you didn't do your job well enough, and you need the sheet music to not get lost somehow in a concert? How do you see this? Because the old Svátoslav Richter, he never played. I've seen him, the old one, thankfully, and he never played without music on the piano, and he was absolutely sure that this is okay to do. I don't know whether it's okay or whether it's just like, okay, this is the sort of emergency.
Yeah, no, and I mean, earlier in life, he played everything from memory. I mean, he had an enormous memory for music, but this became a choice, and I totally respect that, and I totally respect people who want to do things from score. And for myself, I feel, for instance, when I have to do contemporary music, or also not only contemporary but complex music from the 20th century, I would most often play with score. I don't see why I should use endless hours simply for memorizing. For some people, it's very easy. Some even have photographic memory, and they can memorize things immediately. For me, for instance, I haven't played a lot of Bach. I think I'm sometimes triggered and think I should play more, not only at home, but if I play in concert, I'm not sure that I will play from memory, because that's really, really a challenge, and it doesn't come very naturally to me, and it was not something that Bach ever thought of. I mean, he would just put up the sheet music. I mean, this is a tradition that developed in the 19th century, much later. So I don't see why one has to play the Wohltemperiertes Klavier from memory. But if it comes naturally to you, like to some people who just remember it immediately, why not? And then there are other things for me which would feel really strange to play from music. I mean, when you have a piano concerto from Rachmaninoff or Grieg or whatever, I mean, if you have the score in front of you, you have to turn the page every 9 seconds sometimes, because it goes really fast. And that would feel disturbing to me. I think this to have learned these pieces from memory gives a freedom in performance for that music, which for me is quite essential. But I think it's a personal choice.
Let's talk about repertoire. I still remember seeing an evening here in Hamburg with Pollini in a regular and very well-mannered and straightforward concert performance, and he chose to play Stockhausen piano pieces, and otherwise he just played, I don't know, Chopin, Mozart, whatever, so regular, nice stuff somehow. And then he came up with the idea of playing Stockhausen. Everybody was amazed in the hall because, Stockhausen, he pulled on his wool gloves and he started banging on the piano. I wondered what it's like for you to talk to concert organizers about ideas and their ideas about what you should play and what you actually want to play. How hard is it for you to keep on your course and say, I want to do this program. You can want whatever you want. I just won't do it because it's not interesting for me. Is it something that's easy, that's become easier, or because your programs are always known for being specifically interesting and not really tending towards mainstream and easy stuff or popular stuff? You sometimes do the tricky parts.
Yeah, and maybe I mean, I'm interested in also. I mean, the piano repertoire, the choice of it is so vast that I'm interested in the fringe. I mean, not that it has to be always terribly complex and modern, but also, I mean, lately I've been playing Dvorak piano music, which nobody knows, but simply to play great music from a famous composer, but people don't know it because I don't know. There's too much piano repertoire. Interesting question. I mean, in a way, with the years, it's maybe becoming easier because I'm more well known and more established. On the other hand, I have to say I'm pessimistic at the moment. There are organizers that will always come back and say, "Oh, this is not commercial enough. It will not be sold." People are struggling in many series to sell the piano recitals. What I'm lacking often is a dialogue, really a dialogue with the organizers, not only through management, but that they want to have a dialogue. I mean, sometimes you put on a series of concerts somewhere and you don't even have a direct dialogue with the organizer, and I think that's a shame. I mean, it would be great. I'm always appreciating, on the other hand, these organizers that are reaching out for artistic ideas and can we do something special? Can we do? Would you like to? Could you imagine doing this piece because it fits into our seasonal thematic subject or something like that? I mean, then maybe that can be complicated for me as a musician to fit in this. But I like these kind of things, that there is a will and wish for something special, and not just the usual just accept anything, as it's not difficult to sell kind of attitude. Yeah.
When you're coming here to Hamburg, to Elbphilharmonie, I just wondered whether, I mean, the audience is very close here in Hamburg or in the Berlin Philharmonic Hall. Is that something that you like, or is playing easier and safer when there's a bigger distance between you and the audience? I guess I wouldn't like having audience so close to me when I'm playing. And I've seen so many concerts here in Hamburg from pianists coming on stage for the first time and actually noticing how close they are to the audience. But maybe you'll enjoy this. Maybe you think the closer the better. I have no idea.
I don't think so much about it in these big halls. I mean, they are not terribly close. I mean, when sometimes in some, I mean, during the year, I play sometimes in very intimate locations, and then it can be, you can feel that the piano there is not enough space to develop something. It's too small hall or something like that. But I haven't thought of it as intimidating in Berlin and Hamburg. But it is of course a different experience than the normal shoebox halls. It's interesting when you're surrounded by people. For instance, I played recently in the Saal in Berlin, which is really round, and you have on all sides, and it can be a bit unusual also, which direction am I playing? And especially I imagine for singers, where who should I sing to, and you have in the back and everywhere. And these halls, I think, can be then a little bit more uncomfortable for the musicians, but they can be really wonderful for the audience. And everybody says, for instance, in the Saal, when you're in the audience, you feel really part of kind of intimate community, and you see the others listening and the others experiencing just on the other side and very close. And so that is the wonderful side effect of these surround halls. Though acoustically it can be a little bit more challenging sometimes with these halls than the normal shoebox. But I think I don't prefer this or that. I think they have different strengths.
Mm-hmm. You had one career boost. I've forgotten the year, but you had a concert where you jumped in the last minute in Salzburg for Christian Zimmermann, if I'm not wrong. That's what I found.
I'm not sure that was a career boost, but that's happened, yeah.
Yes, okay. So I found it as being some sort of career boost. And I wondered, this is a classic situation when someone younger and not that known jumps in at the last second for someone else, and then all of a sudden his career goes on another stage of perspective and visibility. If something like this happens, and this happened in a way to you, did you actually talk to him later somehow and tell him, I was sorry that you were sick or couldn't come, but for me it was a good idea and a good moment, and thanks very much? Or is this something that you just take for granted as someone jumping in? Because I think you can't plan this. It just happens or it doesn't happen. But somehow this feeling must be very special.
Yeah, I haven't had opportunity to speak with him directly, but I know the situation from both sides. Also there has been times when I had to cancel and somebody took over for me, and then I actually had contact with them, and they said, thank you for the possibility and so on. And yeah, this can be nice. It happened to me several times. Also, the first time I played with the Mariinsky Orchestra in Karriere, for instance, I took over from a sick Toratze, and I was just 23, 24 years old, and had to throw myself into Rachmaninoff 3 with half an hour rehearsal and these kind of things.
Oh,
and
really,
really right before the concert. Yeah, it's quite exciting to do this, and of course one is grateful for this kind of opportunity when one is young. That's for sure.
How long did it take you to get asleep after this performance, playing Rachmaninoff 3 after half an hour before, just getting into it and then being thrown on the stage and survive or don't?
I don't remember about sleeping, but I do remember that it was the first experience for me how quickly it can actually, you can make a performance, because it just had to happen. And it was half an hour of kind of chaotic rehearsal. I mean, well, we tried this place, but we never had time to play through the piece. And then I had never been in a situation like that, and I thought, okay, Rachmaninoff 3, but I do know it. I played it by now many times on stage. I just have to go for it. And Gergiev, of course, followed well, and the orchestra, of course, knows this piece. They didn't know my version of it, but just somehow it became a performance, which I think was not so bad. And I remember being very surprised about that, and very delighted. My goodness, is it possible to make a performance like that without talking a lot and preparing? And it certainly felt enough spontaneous. Let's put it that way.
Okay, when you work on a piece, preferably a new one, there's sooner or later there's a point where you have two directions to choose from. Either you feel confident and you think, okay, I know what this is about. I'm sure now that I know how to play this and what I have to do. And the other direction would be, I just can't find an entrance. I don't know what this piece is about. I have no clue. I'm stuck here. I have to think about it again and again and again, but I just don't find the right key to get into a piece. How is it then for you? What's it like? And how do you react when you see, I don't know how to deal with this? Is there any cure, or is it just, okay, I tried one more time and then I put it aside and let someone else play it? Or how is it like when you find out that you have a resistance in a piece of music that you want to understand?
Yeah, it's of course, most of the time the development can be somewhere in between what you're describing here. That you feel that parts of it you're finding your way, and other parts are you're searching in a tunnel and not really finding the light. There has been pieces. Beethoven Fifth Piano Concerto is an example for me of a piece where I felt it was such a joy to study it. Incredible music. I played a few concerts, and then I had a kind of I developed a kind of complex about it. I was in my late 20s, and I felt after a while that in this piece I'm just playing arpeggios and scales, and there is no music. And I had places where I hadn't figured out the right fingering. I mean, there are some complex places in this piece, and I would always be fearful of these places in performance. And when that also didn't feel like I was really experiencing the music, then and you don't really have a mission for the music, then it gets worse. And so I simply stopped playing that. I can't remember, I was 29 or so, and didn't play it for many years. And really had to rethink when I came back to it. And I don't know if it's simply also being older and I've experienced more and listened more and to Beethoven and understanding him better. I don't know. But at that moment I felt, but my goodness, I mean, this is the greatest music. It's so full of freedom and everything. And then I found better solutions for my problematic passages. But that's a piece where I just had to stop. I didn't feel comfortable with it for a long while.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen. And I guess that's part of the sometimes one just crashes into a wall.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not wrong again, then you started recording Beethoven when you were older than 40. Others started their second turn recording Beethoven in such an age. So is it possible to be too young for some sort of music? And how do you feel about this perspective of, I have to wait until I play these pieces, or I can play those pieces whenever I want. I can't be too young for this. How do you see this? Because, okay, let's talk maybe the late Beethoven sonatas. They're the most famous and infamous example, maybe, because everybody says they're so hard, so complicated. You should at least spend 10 years working on them before you actually can dare to play them publicly or to record them. On the other hand, you could think, if you want to fail, then fail early, then you have a second shot. What's your opinion?
I think one must dare to fail early, of course. I mean, I actually played in my debut recitals when I was 17. I played Opus 110 by Beethoven as one of the pieces. Though I didn't play a lot of late Beethoven for sure early on. But I do remember this feeling of this music being full of a kind of foreign beauty that I didn't really understand and appreciate enough. I was attracted by it, but not in the same. But it wasn't natural in the same way as I would play in the same program Chopin and Liszt and other things. But I'm not unhappy that I did it. I mean, it was an experience, and I think I grew on it. And but the most important thing then is to have respect and to think that, you know, I don't have the key for this yet. I mean, but I think sometimes also young people have a key for things that they don't have later. Certain aspects of composition, even by compositions written by older masters. So there is no recipe for this. I mean, but I think of course today we are very much. I mean, young musicians are becoming very the heroes of our time, and you see it especially with young conductors, and it's just important for everybody to know that it's very difficult to do a Bruckner 9 when you are 22 years old. I mean, to really be satisfying in that music, it just certain things take time, and. Mm-hmm. For me in my life, there were pieces that I was waiting with. I talked about 110, but 111 felt like really something really strange, and I couldn't approach it till I was closer to 40. And but that's just been by intuition in my life, you know. But I would encourage young people to play it, but at the same time being humble of the fact that you don't get everything. I mean, you need experience with this kind of things.
Mm. Since you mentioned respect, I wondered, what are your criteria to pick musical partners? Does it have to be love at first sight, or is a sort of struggle more effective because you have to get used to each other? You have to find out where the frontiers are. How do you see this? Because you always pick interesting musical collaborators, either orchestras or singers. Now in Hamburg, you're going to be here with Christiane Karg, who is wonderful, but special, but mostly wonderful, and in general, wonderful. And you've played with Mahler Chamber Orchestra for decades. And so there's a sort of, let's say, commercial obligation to do many things. But when you have a choice to pick someone, then you're picky. And how does this work for you? How do you find someone to work with and to be close with?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing for me is it's a strong personality that I'm learning from and appreciating so much to work on the music and to be in the performance and feeling that we are searching for a kind of truth about the compositions we are doing. And I've been thinking about this lately because I just did a tour with Christian Tetzlaff in Europe, and yesterday and tonight, in fact, as we speak, I'm doing concerts in my hometown here in Bergen with Matthias Görner. We're doing the Schöne Müllerin and Winterreise, and I mean these are widely different personalities, but so interesting to work with both of these, for instance, that are old friends and partners for me for years. And that's what I want. I want to be challenged. And both of these, for instance, they always surprise me in the work with music, and let me think about approaches and things that I haven't been thinking of in this music. Mm-hmm. It happens constantly. And that's what I want. Also with conductors, I don't want a conductor who says, don't worry, I will follow you. No, I want a conductor who has a real opinion and really works sweating to get some kind of result also in the concerto, and which is full of their integrity. And then, of course, there can be disagreements and discussions, but that's much better than the kind of sort of flat feeling of they're just trying to help you a little bit to get along with the piece.
Mm-hmm. So. One of your collaborations was with Marc-André Hamelin. You played Stravinsky Sacre for 4 hands, and Hamelin is known for playing faster than his shadow. And how much courage did this take for you to get in a recording studio with someone who is known for being so fast and so skilled technically? I mean, if you see him, it's almost incredible that it's just 10 fingers and just 2 hands what he's doing. And what was that like?
Well, he's a super virtuoso, and in particular repertoire, there are things that he can do that nobody else can do after him. And but we didn't only do. We were not only in the studio. We have played many concerts with, and the main piece that we were doing were Rite of Spring for 2 pianos, which was a suggestion of him about 10 years ago, I think, a little bit more even, to do together in a festival which I was directing at that time in Risør in Norway. And I hadn't at that time even heard of that there was a version for 2 pianos, and I thought this is crazy. I mean, this is the orchestra piece of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. It's the orchestration and everything. But I ended up with loving it so much to hear this piece more naked, like the structure of the piece you hear so clearly, and also the 2 pianos gives a kind of violence, a simple brutality to it, which in the orchestra sometimes can be more. You can be more overwhelmed by the colorful orchestration and so on. So I loved it so much, and and Mark is not only super virtuoso; he's also a great musician in these kind of things. So I've really I treasure it, and we are going to do concerts again in February of next year.
I see.
Look a lot forward to that, and it's always inspiring.
When you practice, is practicing for you being actually on a piano and touching a piano, playing music, or how important is it for you to read about music? Is this some sort of preparation that you actually need, and maybe it's even more effective to think about music than to actually practice it? How do you see it? I wonder whether I mean, I've talked to many conductors who tend to say, I'm sitting there, I'm reading my score. It's like a rehearsal without musicians, much nicer somehow and just as effective. What do you think? Is it necessary or even vital to read about music, to know about composers, their lives, their ideas, or is the music that's in front of you on the paper, is that actually enough for you? I guess this is a rhetorical question, but I wondered, how do you see this?
Everything can be good. I mean, I naturally work mostly at the piano, and there are many ways to practice. for instance, if I'm struggling with a passage, sometimes you're working physically on something and then take a break and let the brain work, because the brain works after you have done something. It continues to work on it. So if you go and have a meal or do the dishes and you come back to the piano after, you will notice that, oh my goodness, the fingers have, and the brain has figured out a way. So so to practice doesn't only mean to sit down for 3 hours and do your work every day. You have to think about how to practice and how to attack the physical, technical problems and the musical problems as well. But of course, in addition to that, I'm interested in reading about composers, but that's more on the side, and then also thinking about an ideal performance away from the piano, I think is very good, and good for the imagination, to get sounds in, to imagine sounds, to imagine how the piece should be built. I mean, the pianist Dino Lipatti said that one should, late at night, in the silence of the night, he says, imagine the perfect performance of the piece you're going to play. And I think he's right. One has to do that also outside from the instrument, because with the instrument you will always be confronted with the physical side of playing. So of course, to get away from that and to go for a walk or be in the silence and just think about the piece is very important, I think.
I found a quote from you, which I found interesting. A musician should develop as a human being first, then career can start. That's complicated. That's a long task.
It's a radical thing to say, but at least it has to develop hand in hand. It's tough, because for a lot of talents, it starts really early, that one is being thrown into this kind of musical world, and we see it more and more, because as we talked about earlier, the industry loves the youth, and to then find time and space to develop as a person, that's really important. And every person has to find their own way of doing that. For me, for instance, being from Norway, it's been important to come back here, and nature is important for me, for instance, to experience the different seasons. I spend a lot, especially in the summer, I tend to take time off and spend time here. I mean, after I got a family when I was 40, then it's easier also to take time for holidays and these kind of things. I heard a colleague say that every young musician who suddenly is being thrown into this life, having a big career, should plan their calendar as they have they would have if they had a family, which I think was quite wise, because then you naturally have to take certain periods of time for yourself and do other things. And I see there are victims of this industry where one sees people don't have space for themselves. To develop on a human level with other human beings, and to experience other arts or nature and cooking and drinking and having a life. You know? I think you cannot fill the music with inhalt, with content, with emotion, with characters, if you don't also have a life.
Since you mentioned being from Norway, so now finally I can ask my question I wanted to ask from the beginning, because your accent is, if I hear this, I always think of the Netflix series Norsemen. Have you ever seen this? That's so funny.
No, I haven't. Yeah.
It's about Norwegian Vikings living in a village, and it's sort of mixture of a Viking series and Monty Python, and it's hilarious. And they always speak in English, and they have this interesting Norwegian accent, and it's so funny. And so you've never seen it?
No, I should see it. Maybe I recognize myself. Yeah,
you should check it out. It's wonderful. It's completely crazy. But okay, I thought everybody in Norway knew this and saw this, and this is like a national phenomenon, but obviously it might not be.
Maybe in Norway we don't know this because it's too embarrassing for us to to see it. Yeah.
Okay. One other thing I found was you were knighted in 2002. You became a Comtour of the Saint Olaf Order. If that's true, what's that like? I mean, what do you get from this? Any bonuses? Any, like, I don't know, special prices when you shop, or you can use the bus for free, or you just get the thing to put on your jacket and the king comes across and says, okay, congratulations, you're a knight now? Or is there anything that's really a practical benefit?
Oh, not really. It's not practical at all. But I get the medal, which I should wear if I'm meeting the royal couple, or I can wear it if I'm naked alone at home, but not when meeting other people. So no, it's a kind of recognition which is nice for the work I've done and so on. And but I still have to pay for the bus.
What a pity. So you've done something wrong. You should have talked to them longer and made a better deal.
I think you're overestimating what kind of powers our royal couple have. But
since you're coming from Bergen, and since you mentioned the nature, I wonder what you're doing when you're not playing or practicing. Is it the classical Norwegian things you do, like hiking, fishing, cutting wood, looking into the fog, or what are you what are you doing?
Especially looking into the fog, it feels like. Yes, I mean, I'm not wildly outdoor person. I mean, I have a busy life and I have 3 children, and they are I have to take them to football training or violin lesson or whatever they are doing, and then prepare my own stuff and so on. But when I have time off, and I might have a weekend or holiday, and there's wonderful opportunity here for hiking in the mountains, or I like to go cross country skiing in the winter when there's possibility for that. Actually, in Bergen where I live, there is normally not so much snow. Because of the Gulf Stream and because we are by the coast. But last winter, luckily enough, there was like 2 months of fantastic winter here. And of course, this was the pandemic time and I was home all the time. So I again discovered this love of just putting on my skis. And you could basically, 10 minutes from my home, you could go for fantastic walks. So that was great. And sometimes in the winter, I go to the mountain and do that. And yes, it's part of me without being something that I'm searching to do all the time. I like to cook for my family. That's something I find very relaxing. Yeah.
And Bergen is known as far as I've read, Bergen is known as the most rainy city in Europe.
Normally it's very rainy, and this summer it's been very dry. So something is happening, like everywhere with the climate. I guess what we are experiencing is longer periods of this and that. So I'm sure we will soon get a very long period of rain. I can guess. I mean, this is normally almost what happens in the autumn anyway in Bergen. But yes, it rains a lot here because we have 7 mountains around the city, and when the rain arrives, it stays here and leaves all the water before the clouds go on. So it's a rainy place. Yeah.
And since Bergen is not too great as a city, do you happen to know the band Kings of Convenience, or because they're the other world famous guys from Bergen, or is there no connection? Is there no connection between the music scenes?
I know some artists, and I have friends with some. I'm friends with some artists within other fields and also actors, and but I don't know so many in the rock and roll world or so. It feels like really a different. I don't know. It's a different language, isn't it? So. Yeah, I'm not part of the artistic community here in that way. I'm also traveling normally so much internationally. I mean, I'm away half of the year, and then when I'm here, it's normally focus on the family.
to wrap things up, I just wondered as a last question, since Grieg is one of your national heroes, is there anything you'd wanted to ask him about the piano concerto maybe, or anything else, maybe any corrections, or because he was a very special man as far as I know, and I wondered what's it like being connected so close to this musical national character. Is there anything that you'd think of wanting to know from him?
Yeah, several things, and I would. I find that there are pieces that open up much more than others, and I would ask him why he would so strictly often stay with the kind of ABA form or ABACA kind of form, where you have very often a beginning of a piece coming back in an absolutely identical way at the end or later in the piece, and why. Or if he himself experiences that the pieces where he could free himself from that and make more variation, that they were more successful, because that is my feeling. And I feel that very much now in the songs which we recorded with Lise Davidsen, that there are certain songs where he just gets a completely different horizon. Because he breaks with that very strict form. While in many of the lyric pieces for piano, for instance, they can be very beautiful, but they have a rather static form. So that would be one question for him. Maybe it's a little bit critical to be the first question you ask one of your heroes, but but just to feel to hear what he would say about it, whether that was something that he felt where he had freed himself from this form, if the music has taken on a different flight, which it feels for me. I'm sure he would agree, actually, because these are some of the best things, and I think he had problems sometimes with the form of pieces, and especially with larger forms, and with the piano concerto being one exception where it's really successful. But he very rarely, he didn't write a successful symphony or an opera or these kind of pieces.
What's the most Norwegian thing about you? Looking into the fog, maybe.
I think Norwegians are quite. We have a society which is where the attitude is very much about equality. And I notice in the world, when I engage with my with friends internationally and network and so on, that this is very much a part of me. It can be too much with the political system and social attitude is very much in this country about the social democratic equality system, and I've noticed that it's also part of me. I think that's maybe not only Norwegian, maybe it's a Scandinavian thing, but certainly also Norwegian.
Okay, I think we're done, and I'm really looking forward to see these concerts here in Hamburg with the Mozart performances, with the orchestra and with the songs, and with this project about Mozart piano concertos from 1785. And I'm trying to find a Greek frog until then and bring it with me just for good luck. And thank you very much. It's been very interesting, and I should come to Bergen sometime and have a look, because that sounds fascinating. And check out Norseman, and take care, and enjoy your days until you come here to Hamburg. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. I can't wait to come back to Hamburg, and which is the first time we do a real residency with this Mozart Momentum project, by the way, with the Mahler Chamber. It's the first city, and it's a great place. I can't wait.
Okay, so we'll see then, and enjoy your time until then, and thanks very much.
Thank you.
Weitere Podcasts vom Hamburger Abendblatt finden Sie auf abendblatt.de/podcast.